this is Mia. It's kind of late here right now, and I thought I'd do one of these sort of drowsy, soft-spoken, rambling whatevers to help you fall asleep. And then I'll put up a couple of roleplay audios. Those are always really fun. So what I thought I would do for these is focus on a topic or a story for each one. And I was originally thinking of talking about foot play for this one and like maybe foot parties or something. But I think instead for this, I'm going to talk about the time that I edge for too long. Because everything kind of connects to that, I think. I guess first I should say what edging is, just in case you don't know. Edging is when you, or someone else, but let's say it's you, when you bring yourself to the edge of orgasm, but don't come. Instead, you kind of pull back and let, your body kind of regain control. And then you bring yourself to the edge again. And the idea is you do that repeatedly so that when you come really, really hard. And if you're really advanced, you can bring yourself to the edge and kind of hold yourself there. But that's hard to do for any period of time. And I like edging. I like edging men. I've always loved edging men. And part of that is just it's visually incredible. Like the way someone looks when they're right at the edge of orgasm. And the sounds that they make. It's just absolutely fantastic. And, there's also, if I am edging someone, it's also the aspect of having control over whether or not they come. So there's that too. But for a long time, what I especially liked was being able to use my hand, kind of control how close they are to coming. And also being able to kind of speak in their ear while I'm doing it. I just always enjoyed that. I feel like that's an understatement. Anyway, so the story I'm about to tell you is sort of early on in my experience. I knew that I loved edging people. But I didn't have, a ton of experience in terms of understanding my body and other people's bodies, and just mainly intuitive. And I was dating a guy who loved being edged, and I edged him a lot. And there were a few times when I really kind of pushed him hard, like I really kind of went a while before I let him come. And I thought later, I should probably know what that's like. I should probably know what I'm subjecting this guy to. So I decided I would spend an evening edging myself, kind of the same intensity that I would do to him, to see how it felt, how frustrating it was, and see if there's anything I needed to be aware of from that. Now, the thing is, at the time, because even though I felt like I knew everything about sex, I did not, and I certainly did not know what my body was capable of. I had a vibrator, course. And I would use that to come a lot. And I thought that was kind of it. I thought the vibrator has pretty much covered everything that needed to be covered. Because of the thing with a vibrator is it's very like physiological. Like you can be not even remotely turned on, but you put a vibrator on your clit and maybe it'll take you slightly longer to come, but you'll come. And so I hadn't really thought much about what part arousal would play into that. I thought it was pretty straightforward, and you put the vibe on, you come, done, enough said. So when I decided to spend this evening edging my head, I figured, okay, I'll just get my vibe. I'll get nice and relaxed and lie back on my bed. Use the vibe, and then when I would feel like I'm going to come, pull it away and let that kind of pass, and then try again. And that's what I assumed it would involve. And that's how I started. I got the vibe, brought myself to the edge, pulled it away. Hated it. I did not like edging in that moment. So I was used to just letting myself come. So when I pulled the vibrator away, I was like, oh, this sucks, man. I don't want to ever do this again. What's the point? But I waited for my body to kind of settle down and then use the vibe again. And the second time, it was a little bit more intense. Like my body felt a little more electric. And it was frustrating when I stopped and still didn't really see the appeal of being edged. I just liked edging men. But then it's around maybe the third or fourth time that I edged that everything felt different. Like suddenly I could feel it. I could feel it like in my thighs. I could feel it in my feet. I could feel it in my hands. And that time when I edged, it was a lot harder to keep from coming. I realized that everything was getting dialed up really dramatically. And not just out of frustration, it was like my whole body was waking up in a way. So I kept doing it. Both to see what it was like, but also because after that, every time I edged, it felt more intense. Like my whole body did. This is not even the orgasm part. This is just the build up to it. And obviously, if it keeps feeling more intense every time I edged, I imagine, well, if I do this for a while, it's going to be unbelievable. But as I was doing this, there's also, it's hard to describe. There's like a feeling I get when I'm turned on, when I want penetration. And I know there's a reason for that. It has to do with the clitoral complex. And as your clit gets sort of turned on, the whole system gets turned on and sort of swollen and sort of sensitizes other parts of the body. I get wetter, and then kind of builds up to this sort of throbbing frustration in the very center of my body, where not only am I like increasingly sensitive internally, but it becomes just this ache. It kind of then builds up to a need. So it's almost like when I'm really turned on, it's almost like I think this is the case, like the only thing that would satisfy that sort of itch is penetration at that point. And usually want it pretty deep. So as I was edging myself, using my clit in this vibe, which is just sort of on the surface, like inside, this throbbing kept building and building until I was desperate to have something inside me, like out of my mind, desperate for it. And I was lucky that I had a dildo, but I'd never really used it. I think I tried it like once or something and didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is because I wasn't fully turned on, which I didn't know at the time. So, and I don't know how many times I'd edged at this point, but it had been a while. I just went to my closet and started digging through everything, trying to find that dildo, like desperate for it. My fingers were not cutting it. And so I eventually found that dildo, and I put it on the ground, and I essentially sat on it, kind of pinned it down with the tops of my feet, so I was sort of kneeling, with like my knees open, sort of positioned over this dildo, and I sort of sat down on it slowly, and I still remember like that feeling of of needing it so badly, and then finally feeling it, and like this feeling of both intense pleasure but also relief in a way. Like I just needed that inside me so badly. And at this point, the edging was not about my clit anymore at all. I mean, my clit was participating in the process, but it was like there was a shift from having just been sort of like playing with my clit, this vibe, to just like this abject need to be fucked, like desperation to be fucked. But I also thinking, each time I edge, it gets more intense. Well, I'll keep edging, right? And I have no idea how long it's been at this point. What I distinctly remember was absolutely like losing it on that dildo, like just completely primal, like nothing going through my mind. I just needed that dick inside me so badly. I thought I was going to die without it. And eventually I got to this point where it's like, I have to come. I absolutely need to come. And I can't even imagine what kind of like spectacle I was making of myself in that bedroom. Luckily nobody was seeing it. Just like going nuts on that thing. But I reached for that vibrator, and I was just fucking the shit out of that dildo. And I put it on my clit, and it felt so good. I was just like gonna pass out, and I was going crazy on it, and I couldn't come. I was desperate to come. I was like clawing at the carpet and humping this dildo and like desperately needed to come. And I absolutely could not come. All I could do was I was stuck right on that edge. And no matter what I did, I could not get over it. Which is a very specific kind of torture to be experiencing. So, I continued trying. I continued trying for I don't know, probably another hour, because I was losing it. And fucking the shit out of myself with that toy. But could not come. Absolutely could not come. So, anyway, at some point I gave up and went to bed, still feeling like I was right on the edge of orgasm, my whole body, and just my pussy still throbbing. My clit was so swollen and pulsing, and I just lying there looking at the ceiling, being oh my God, did I just break my body? Will I never be able to come again? What did I do to myself? Eventually managed to go to sleep like that. And I woke up feeling exactly the same way. I had things to do that day, and I swear to God, I woke up still feeling like I was on the edge of this orgasm, and tried again with the vibrator. Could not come. Spent the whole day like that, just this, I guess a kind of exquisite agony of every nerve in my body being super electric, and my clit just throb, not just my clit, and also deep inside my pussy, just throbbing constantly, and I was extremely wet all day long, and I would duck into the bathroom and finger myself trying to make myself come, and it wasn't happening. It just got me closer to the edge, but not. And I'd try to push more fingers inside myself, and trying to fuck my own hand in a bathroom stall, just trying to make myself come to relieve the pressure. It wasn't happening. And I finally got home, and at that point felt like I needed to come, because it was becoming kind of a crisis situation. I couldn't go through life in that state at all times. And it took a while, but it also kind of felt good. I remember, I'm going to be very candid, it was I only a bit, I have a very hard time talking about sex in a way that isn't kind of direct, so I'm going to be very direct about this. I was a full nympho, and there was something that felt really good about that, about needing and wanting that deeply and desperately. It was so frustrating, but also kind of great to feel like that, as opposed to, say, having no libido, or even a weak libido, like that heightened state of, in my mind, I think of it as when I just need to be fucked, hard. And there's a very specific feeling when you need that, and I was stuck in that feeling, and so I sort of spent this evening, of course, going to town on that dildo again, and with the vibe. And eventually at some point, it felt like when I would get to the edge of an orgasm, it felt like I was gradually making progress towards it. Like I was getting closer to it, but almost like in slow motion. And then finally it came this moment where, like, after very slowly inching towards this orgasm, leaving me kind of stuck in this suspended state of desperation and absolutely fucking the shit out of myself with that dildo. It finally happened, and I came so hard that I lost my goddamn mind. It was seismic. It was unbelievable. Like life-altering kind of orgasm. And I know now that a lot of that had to do with the way that women get turned on. That your clit, part that is visible and that you can touch and that you can lick, that is very much the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot else going on there. And that this complex, this clitoral complex, as you get turned on, it swells and sort of sensitizes, and it essentially sensitizes other parts of your body, but especially eternally. And what I've done to myself, it didn't just reach a point that I thought arousal was. Like, up until that point, I thought arousal was pretty much when you want a dick inside you, or when you're close to coming. Like, I thought that was kind of, those are your options there. I didn't realize that there are like 10 levels beyond that that are just way more intense. And also, I think the reason why I couldn't come was because I'd been using the vibrator for so long. It has like a very, over a period of time, it has a desensitizing effect. And if you're used to coming from your clit, like the specific clit that is, it can be touched, you desensitize the surface of that from too much vibration. It really does become this thing where you can get right up to the edge, but it'll stop you from going over. Like, it's just not quite enough to take you over. So it was sort of a combination of that. But my main takeaway from that was definitely sort of this discovery of what my body was capable of in terms of sensation and desire and orgasm, all of that. And a lot of it, some of it can be from physical stimulation and edging, keeping from coming until you're fully aroused. But it can also come from everything else that is arousing, mentally or psychologically. Role play, for example. I don't want to generalize about women's bodies or anybody with a clitoral complex. But I think there is a general understanding that it takes like at least 20 minutes, if not longer. I mean, longer if you're sort of mentally blocked. And I can say with absolute certainty that if you take that time, it's a whole different experience. And after that, maybe I should save this for a different video, but I guess I'll just touch on it. But after that, I found that there's another way to also get into that state. Edging for sure will do it. And anything mental or psychological, like role play or phone sex, that'll totally do it. But something I particularly enjoy is coming repeatedly in sort of a short time frame. Not really short, but coming, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times in 2 hours, for example. Or a combination of that, of coming repeatedly and also edging. Because then after, like, I guess like 2 hours, say, it becomes really like a whole different level. If you're still aroused, if everything that's happening is still turning you on, and it is absolutely incredible. It becomes really primal and really kind of get into a state where you feel it everywhere. And something just like kissing can be really intense, and penetration, oh my god, it's just like a whole nother world. And that's also from being fully aroused. So I kind of make that distinction now. And I sort of feel like, we tend to put a lot of emphasis on coming. And as if that's the end goal. And it is often said that it shouldn't be. My feeling is that arousal should be the end goal. Because whether you come or not, it is going to be mind-blowing. Like whether you're held on the edge of release and desperate to come, or if you're coming a lot, or whatever, it kind of doesn't matter. But the whole experience will be really, really intense. I think, that we don't really talk about that enough, or acknowledge that enough. Tend to be more orgasm driven. Making a woman come is, great. But getting her really, really turned on, like that's the sort of thing that she will remember for a very long time. Like I remember, I'm still talking, I shouldn't be talking. But I remember this one time, this guy, I'm just going to tell this story real quick and then I'll stop talking because I feel like this is getting long. But I remember this guy, he was like a friend of someone I was seeing at the time. But he was like sitting on the sofa, and he just like got down on his knees and pushed up my skirt and started licking me through my panties. I was crazy turned on by it and kind of held his face between my legs, and I think, he was just sort of licking me through my panties, like waiting for me to kind of take it up a notch. But I was ambivalent because I was dating his friend, and well, we're all pretty open-minded, sexually speaking. It felt like something I needed to talk to him about first. So I was apprehensive. I didn't want to, I want to do things ethically. But this guy was really good at licking pussy. And so I encouraged that for a while. I kind of held his head between my legs and was like grinding my pussy on his face. And I was so turned on, oh my God. I was like losing it. And it took all of my strength not to take it further. I could rationalize looking through my panties as still just friendly behavior, not technically violating any boundaries yet. But I think probably went on for like half an hour, and he made me come a few times. But what was memorable to me, it wasn't coming at all, but it was how turned on I was. Because that stayed with me. Like, I eventually managed to leave, on shaky legs before anything more happened. But I felt that for a few days. I was so turned on. And he was so good at that. And obviously I get turned on by people who like my pussy in general, who spontaneously volunteer, that sort of thing. And so I think about that sometimes, about how the actual orgasm was good. It was solid. It felt great. But it was the arousal that made me remember that. Like how hot it was that he got down on his knees and licked my pussy. And, he looked really great doing it. And I'm sure part of it, too, was sort of the struggle of internal conflict, whether I should just pull my panties off and wrap my legs around his head or leave. And all of that. It's always sort of a pleasant friction that comes from internal conflict, I think. Yeah. But yeah, my point is that it's the arousal that lingers. I'm thinking of like 100 other examples of that. I should probably stop there. Pretty sure this is way too long at this point. I'm also pretty tired now. But hopefully by now you're asleep. And if you are asleep, then maybe some of this will appear in your dreams, and wake up wondering why you horny now. I'll stop there. And, if you're still awake,